What's up, folks? Welcome back to Tactical Tortoise. My name is Trevi, and today we're talking about some of the new spoilers coming off Warhammer community. Today, talking about Imperial and Chaos Knights, the next set of codexes coming down the pipeline for Warhammer 40,000. Today, this is on April 7th, 2022. Warhammer community has previewed some of the updated weapon profiles for Knights. Now, generally, I don't cover all of these little preview articles that Warhammer community comes out with, but I did want to make this video specifically to address a previous video that I made talking about some Imperial Knight spoiler datasheets that had been posted around the place that potentially previewed some very cool new rules and mechanics for Imperial Knights. Shortly after those datasheets were released, there were scuttlebutts that they were faked. They were very impressive fakes, so I wasn't entirely sure, but I think that this article finally puts to rest to that question, because the weapon profiles that are previewed here are different than the weapon profiles in the previously leaked datasheets, the quote-unquote leaked datasheets that turned out to be fake. In particular, the Plasma Decimator has a different profile here than it does on those spoiled datasheets. This updated profile being range 48, strength 8, AP 4, 2 damage on its standard profile, going up to strength 9, 3 damage on its supercharged profile. Interestingly, the supercharged profile also deals 2 mortal wounds on a hit roll of 1 rather than a single mortal wound like other plasma type weaponry. This makes it significantly more dangerous for the Knights, but I assume that they will have a larger pool of wounds to draw from when it comes to taking that damage. We also see an update to the Reaper Chainsword. While the base melee profile of the Chainsword hasn't really changed too much, it went from AP3 to AP4. The difference here is that it's gotten a sweep profile that allows the user to make 3 hit rolls for every attack that they make with the Chainsword, using an AP3 2 damage profile rather than the 1 attack at the 6 damage profile using the strike attack type. Now, I think this actually points to something very interesting, because this is a very similar profile to what we see on Titanic Feet. Knights already almost universally have a Titanic Feet weapon option built in that comes in at AP2 D3 damage and allows them to make 3 hit rolls for each attack allocated with that weapon. Whether or not they retain that style of attack is going to be the question, because this sweep attack, at least based on the comparison to the existing Titanic Feet attack, only improves its AP by 1, which means it's kind of superfluous. I wouldn't be too shocked to see Knights just moving to a set number of attacks and then special weapons like this providing their sweep profiles. I'd be surprised if Knights didn't go up in their base attacks, maybe to 5 or 6 attacks on their top profile, meaning that with a sweep attack they could be making a ton of swings, making these Reaper Chainswords a lot more viable. Now, interestingly, there are some weapons in here that are kind of duds. I think the Laser Destructor is a little bit of an interesting one. If you compare this to any of these other kind of super heavy anti-tank weapons, the Laser Destructor comes up a little bit short. It is firing 2 shots at strength 14, AP 5, D3 plus 6 damage, so a very similar profile to something like a Hammerhead Railgun, but without any of the invulnerable save ignoring abilities or mortal wounds that a weapon like that inflicts. This means that this is often going to be bumped up against an invulnerable save, so your opponent has the opportunity to blank all of the damage that this huge weapon is doing, and then also, even if it gets through, it's probably going to be only averaging 7 or 8 damage, which is not enough to kill most vehicles in 40k. As always, these low volume weapons are going to be pretty high variance, and while that D3 plus 6 damage is a pretty impressive profile, I don't know how often you're actually going to be using these things, especially in comparison to some of the other weapons that we talked about earlier in the video. We also see the Laz Impulser, this one getting a little bit of a glow up with an extra 6 inches of range on its high intensity weapon and going to a flat 4 damage instead of D6, with its low intensity profile going to 2 damage rather than D3, both profiles getting blast. Hilariously, this is kind of a downgrade, especially with the plethora of damage reduction mechanics in 40k right now. 2 damage is generally significantly worse than D3 damage, and while the extra range in 4 damage on the high intensity gun is nice, only being D6 attacks instead of something like D3 plus 3 makes it very high variance. The Knight Preceptor has always been kind of the black sheep of the Knight family, and I don't really see this changing with these updated weapon profiles. If these are the most exciting profiles that Games Workshop can choose to spoil in order to promote their new Knights Codex, I don't know how excited I would be about the ranged attacks on my updated Knights. Let's hope to see some cool special abilities, especially added survivability on these guys in the future. Although all that said, I do appreciate that it looks like they're not pushing the damage output of these vehicles too far in the wrong direction. It's very easy with Knights to make them do too much damage, and given the fact that they are both relatively difficult to kill in one shot, alongside being extremely fast, that can allow them to deliver debilitating alpha strikes and making them a negative play experience. While I think they do need to do a little bit more damage than their current incarnation to keep up with the current metagame, I don't know how much they really need. The real issue is survivability right now, because most knights should be able to take a round of shooting, be severely damaged, but then be able to attack back, and then they'll get their added value from there. Unfortunately, currently, most knights just take the shots, die, and then blow up and deal mortal wounds to all of their friendly knights, and it's a nightmare. But we'll have to see what comes out for the Knight Codex over the next couple of releases. Really just wanted to make this video to talk about the inconsistencies with the leaked datasheets from before, and finally disprove those datasheets as being the falsehoods that they are. Anyway, let me know down in the comments what you think about these new Knight spoilers, whether you are excited about the new knights or whether these weapons are a little bit underwhelming. Let me know as well if you enjoy coverage of the knight stuff. Like I said before, I don't usually do these videos on all of the little Warhammer community articles, but I'd be happy to talk about knights in the same way that I did Tyranids with our Season of Tyranid spoilers up through the full leak of the Codex. Thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video. Big thanks to everybody for supporting the channel, especially over on Patreon. Patreon.com/TacticalTortoise. YouTube channel members, Twitch subscribers, all those people are super good and awesome. Remember to keep it classy, folks, and have happy wargaming.